Recording again. Okay, sorry about that. Um, all right. It sounds like you're definitely um approaching everything from an trauma-informed um perspective. Like you're trying to be as supportive as you can. You're not flat out telling their parents what to do. You're trying to give everybody some autonomy in the best interest of your client, who is a minor child. Um, so and to me, the one of the best things to do is to try to come up with those contingency safety plans. You're trying to come up with as many scenarios as possible, like you said, with the camel, like what's going to break that straw? What are those straws that are going to break her? That she
Mhm.
would cause her to run away again. So what, and in terms of that, you're trying to come up with some compromises. So for them to like some small compromises that might make her a little less uncomfortable. Um, so since those are so that's the best step you could see right now because there's only so much you can move the parents towards that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of like where we're feeling as like, the Center for Youth as an agency
Hmm. Just
is
move her
like
just
safe
once.
is just like resorting back to like safety.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, what in terms of keeping of that goal of keeping her as safe as possible, keeping her away from the traffickers, what is a step that could be taken? Because one of the ones that is pretty big is to me is to not let her associate with the child who started to introduce her to it. Um, I don't know how feasible that is. Uh,
So we can't control her engagement with this other youth because
yeah.
it's it's a congregate care setting,
Mhm.
and that youth is also like a runaway and homeless in there.
Right.
But we can control to some extent what they talk about in the milieu. So
Mhm.
we can like redirect and say like that's not an appropriate conversation right now, or we can say things like, you know, I know that a behavior that's something that you are involved in, but what are other things that could keep you safe, like what brought you here, and kind of like also modeling conversation with the other youth who is being trafficked, so that she can hear like us trying to support her and give her safety things to show like that's not the best way to go. And then also having like individual sessions with the client saying, hey, like I know that you're making a connection there, and peer connections are good, but also like do you know how to keep yourself safe, because the Center for Youth is very harm reduction
Mhm.
approach, and so we we try really hard to kind of like not tell somebody what they can and cannot do, but say like if you're going to choose that, like what would that look like for you, what would it look like for you to connect with that person's trafficker, like what can you see happening,
Mhm.
and then like trying to show them that there's like scenarios that they may not think about. And um so we a lot of it is like 24/7 kind of conversational, because like they're in the shelter and it's 24-hour care.
Mhm.
Is she already sexually active?
I don't think I know that. That's a good question though, because that would be like a very scary point of like not being
Getting into
aware.
trafficking. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure.
Does
that would be a whole different kind of trauma.
Oh, I think
Like,
that's why I'm like worried is
yeah,
like this other individual, if they're already being trafficked, chances are they have a lot more understanding of how that system operates.
hmm, she identifies as um I guess she identifies as a female, and she's attracted to men, so that she would identify straight. Is that how we would say? Is that like the appropriate way to say it?
I think so?
I believe
Um,
so.
I've seen I haven't personally met a trans person who said it that way, but not personally, but
Yeah.
advocates who have seen on
Yeah.
somewhat reputable social media sources, for example, have said that, oh, I'm a trans woman who's attracted to men, and so therefore I'm straight. I've seen people say that, but
Yeah,
technically
I
not
guess I
personally.
wasn't,
Yeah.
and I don't want to like say
Mhm.
the wrong things, but yeah. But so that's so
Safety.
she talks about her sexuality in that sense, but
Okay.
I don't know if we've explored whether or not she's been sexually active. Maybe her youth and engagement specialist has and just hasn't come up in like the larger conversation.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like you're trying to approach it at multiple angles of trying to keep this kid safe.
Within a
And
system that's really designed to not keep this kid safe based on
yeah,
like
Yeah,
all of
like
the
CPS is saying like she can go back even though her parents are saying like when she gets home from school we lock the doors and she can't leave again and like so constricting. It doesn't feel right.
yeah. No, but telling your kid that they have to stay home because they're not obeying your rules, which about how to dress is
well, so then you're
depending on
also
how severe it is.
completely
Yeah.
like isolating them from everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But CPS says that they have the right to do that. They have the right to put those boundaries on their children
No.
at that age. Basically up until like what, like 16 when
When they can
they
make more
can
of those
Yeah,
decisions.
yeah, because
think what everybody's
at 16 they can go into a transitional living program like what like a TLP that we have and we don't need parent consent for that.
And they would be able to it's
Have
live
their own
on their own.
apartment, but they're under like the supervision of adults.
Hmm. Well, I mean, well, they already ran away and they're already talking to someone about sex work. So has the possible next step with part of their safety plan is it possible to point out like, look, it's this feeling, this rules your parents have, well, strict and overbearing and all those feelings, they are at their core temporary because eventually you will be 16, she could go into this program that you're mentioning, or at 18, she could move out. And the biggest thing is just having not just, but having your finances in order so that she could handle herself. Um, that these rules of her parents making those things are not going to be able to last forever, that they won't have the right to tell her what school to go to, for example. Is that a possibility of being part of her safety plan, I guess, of pointing out that a lot of it's temporary in
Yeah,
some parts of
I
it.
think I think so. Like I think having conversations with her of like, like what are you in control of now? What will you continue to gain access into like that kind of like what you were saying with the autonomy of like choices. Um, time is doesn't time I think is different for adolescents and
Yeah,
teenagers. And
it
so like
is.
I think that but I think it's a good conversation to start having is like under helping them understand that like time does matter and what feels immediate and what feels like there's no end there is like helping them like kind of see that picture of like it doesn't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but you won't be 14 forever. And that's
Mm.
just like so hard to understand at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think it's important to start to like prep them. That's like a life lesson is that like time does change things.
it does. Her parents might change. It would be a lot of changing, but people do. I mean, that's the nature of life. So,
And
And
like
that's why we're social workers because we
right.
believe that people can change.
Yes.
And do
That's
the parents want her to come home?
Hmm.
And like, do they, I mean, I don't, I know you can't disclose that she's like potentially beginning like this early stages of being trafficked, but like, is there like psychoeducation that can be done on like the statistics of like suicide rate for, trans and the startling statistics about like sex trafficking and things that like I don't do they understand the reality? I mean, I'm sure they do, and this is like for them a bit the bigger piece is like the religion that they're living within, right? In their belief system. And this like goes against like but their belief system, but um are those like conversations that like they're the ones that like when they're like just not engaging at all?
I really hope we can get to a point to have those conversations. Like I really hope that we can get to a point where we're like, listen, we know that you don't accept this, but we also need you to see the like we also want you to know like what's the other side of that? Like what does that mean? What could that look like for your daughter or your son? Like what it like so I think that that'll it's just going to take a lot of time and patience. Like I think it's just going to take a lot of I don't know, like maybe like redirecting in conversations or um like just hear me out. Like you don't have to agree. I'm not trying to convince you, but like at least the approach of just like all I'm asking is that you listen.
what religion, if you don't mind my asking that. If you could, I don't know if you could share that, but you said church, but church is very broad.
I believe they
So
go to I believe it's like a Christian domination, like not like one
not
of yeah.
not Catholic. So
Not no, I don't think it's
because
Catholic.
recently the Pope has said some nicer things about the LGBT community. So
Oh, really?
a, a little bit.
For the Catholic Church.
Yeah, a little bit. A little.
Interesting.
They're getting a little bit more accepting. And they don't want to go around telling people they're literally going to hell kind of thing. Because there are people who are, because one of the things I'm a little hesitant, not if I wouldn't want to have the conversation perhaps say in front of the client, your client in this case, with the parents about how high the risk is for
Yeah.
suicide,
Yeah.
for example. Um, because I don't want to, because there are some people who will say that they'd rather that to them their child no longer being with them is a better is the better alternative compared to being
Yeah.
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 You get my point. I don't want to say it. So, I don't want a child to hear that. They might have already, who knows? But yeah. So, my if they were part of the Catholic community, for example, I would be able to strengthen that. No,
Mhm.
there's some pretty big people in the church who are disagreeing with these statements now,
Mhm.
who want to go back to the whole healing and loving and so on. Um, so. But that's what I was going with that. Um,
What's their cultural background?
They are African American, and they identify like I think I'm trying to think of like where her parents are from. They're actually not from the States. I don't know if I remember. I don't know if I know where they're from.
okay. I was going to ask
No, that
island,
was
like
helpful. Yeah.
Haitian or African. So, okay.
Because it could be really if and actually that is really helpful to know they're not from here
Hmm.
Hmm.
because where they're from, this, that could like actually even be like a prosecuting like a prosecutable crime because some countries do not
That
allow
Yeah.
individuals like LGBTQ. So for them, this could be like,
protecting their kid.
yeah, yeah,
Because I'd rather, because, speaking as a parent, well, if we were living in a place where where they do actually jail people, for LGBTQ in relationships, say, and where they do have horrific penalties besides jail time, um, I would say, yeah, we're gonna find a way to get you out of here, but in the meantime, you have to dress the way your birth certificate says because I want you alive and get
Mm.
until we can get out.
yeah,
And I would be working on leaving the country personally. I could say that right now. I know that. I would want to not want to live in a place where they have those laws like that, but there are places,
yeah,
and yeah, it would be it would be viewed as protecting your child, and especially with the church, you might be protecting their soul. It might be coming from,
yeah,
though, this
yeah.
is much, if I don't help my child come back and away from this,
Hmm.
they believe they're acting in their best interest of their child. 99% of the time, the parent is trying to act in the best interest of their child. But
Mhm.
just because you want to doesn't mean you are.
Yeah.
Right,
Like to them, they
right,
probably think this is like a protective factor.
Yeah.
Like
right.
This is a
I'm keeping
fate.
you safe from this, and they don't see that it's actually like escalating the risk factors for this kid.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah. So it's like and that's why, and that authoritarian style of parenting, like where you're going to go to the boys' club, no, we're going to lock you up because, well, the alternative to them might be a spiritual punishment or a punishment by society or a combination
Hmm.
thereof. But to them, they think it might be the lesser of two evils.
Right. No, that's a good
So,
point.
yeah. So I guess, but what you're doing of trying to point out the statistics, of having those conversations, asking them to listen, pointing out they're living in a place where they would be accepted by society, um, that New York State, for example, is fighting to keep those protections in place.
Yeah.
We have, um, eh, we have schools, we have organizations, we have it from the state down, trying to, make sure, and we have it enshrined in our state constitution. Was recently passed, but it's there saying that she eventually, as an adult, has a right to dress how she wants to, use the pronouns she wants, and so on. So it's not, at least for the societal, um, there is help for that. But spiritually, obviously, we cannot say.
And really like in the actually I know my coworker has a lot of families right now where they are really nervous for their kids' rights. And so if this family is kind of following any of the news,
Federal.
that could be an even further driving force in the last few months to be like, I don't want this life for my child because it is potentially very unsafe. And like they don't, the uncertainty of what their child's rights are going to be could also be a factor.
I don't, we and that those are things that we have not talked about, to be honest, of like where like the parents are coming from in that sense. That has not come up when we have met. So that like that's good for us to be able to like for me to bring back and just like be more curious about like you know the parents sharing like where these like feelings and beliefs and intentions are coming from.
All right. I think we're in a good place to, Elizabeth, if you want to step away for 10, about 8 to 10 minutes, um, for our wonderment phase, me and Larissa. Take a break, get some water, have some chocolate or whatever type of
So
thing you want.
you want what time do you want me
You,
to come back?
um, let's say at the latest, 8:44, the latest.
Okay.
Okay. Or yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay. 8:44.
Yes. Okay. There were 10 minutes. Ah, okay. All right. Going off our prompts.
This is really
Um,
a hard case.
yeah. I feel like she's just doing so much here that she can do, but her hands are very much tied.
So tied.
I can't imagine seeing this kid. Yeah.
This system is really going against this kid right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad we have a little bit of protection. Oh, here's a safety plan for when you run away again.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Um, what can we do to make her feel more um empowered? I'm wondering who else okay, one of the prompts is that what can she potentially partner with that has not been discovered. I wonder, since they have such a strong emphasis with the church, I wonder if the church does have that strong of a stance.
Yeah. Like what their religion really is and
Yeah.
how,
And then maybe, like I said, exploring a church that's more LGBTQ friendly. Like maybe they would be okay with them going to another church that's
hmm
similar, maybe has part of their community, but is less rigid if their church is very rigid. Some churches have a youth group
for
for,
sure. Yeah.
so
And maybe
maybe
like
like,
connecting with them
mm,
with more LGBTQ resources, like a support group for parents that they might not be ready for, but having that tool,
yeah,
it's in their toolbox, it's something that's an option for them.
yeah. Um, so I think that's because like the fact that they want them to switch schools, that they're paying for a private school now. I mean that, especially for if they're part of an immigrant community, that's pretty big. Um,
I-
to switch from
yeah,
private
depending
public
on
to
what
private.
country they're from,
Yeah,
like that could literally mean life or death for them.
yeah, yeah.
So to
So,
them, so like if you're looking at it from a parent point of view, like from this set of parents, right?
mm,
Like your culture might not be supportive and really like harmful towards the community. And then your church is, you know, against this belief. I mean, it's really like their child is really going against every belief system that they have.
right. Yeah, and they might, I mean, there are
And
places where
how do you get them
yeah,
to see the difference?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and depending on where you're coming from, they could be, I mean, they could be literally, yeah, 'cause I'm a parent. It's, one of your worst nightmares. Um, of like hearing like your kid is, accused of something and then going to
Mhm.
getting involved in the criminal justice system. And if they're where I'm thinking, um, yeah, it could be a death sentence to be part of the LGBTQ community, like
Yeah.
pulling out death sentence from the government. So, um, and recent news around here. Well, okay, we're not jailing anyone, but
No, it's just I think it's left. I know personally that we had two employees who are trans, as well as this not it's a different program, and they have several of their clients where the children are trans, and it's really um it since the election has really heightened their anxieties. And then January 20th happened, and the staff were worried about their IDs, and the families were worried about are their kids going to be able to get access to gender affirming care. And so like thinking about that in Massachusetts, which is a safe state, like if you're having those fears in a safe space, in a safe state,
Mhm.
right? I mean, and New York is right up there.
Right.
But like I wonder what if you're not from here and then this is starting to happen, I could see how you could be making a lot of decisions based in fear
Yeah,
for your child. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's not a doubt in my mind. Because did we watch it in this class or another class? I watched a big Frontline documentary for one of our classes about um trans kids in places, and then they were starting to follow up on it. And yeah, there are people in the United States. their families moving to keep their kids safe because they
Mhm.
know they're not going to be safe in Texas, for example. Um, and it, yeah, like okay, yeah, they'll be they can go to school but they won't be able to get their medication. They won't be able to get gender affirming care if someone provides it. And now I think Texas is actively uh criminalizing providing gender affirming care.
It's scary to be
Yeah.
working with the individuals, having somebody in your family, like,
Yeah. So yeah.
and then on the other side, from the provider perspective, you've got this kid who's really, when you look at the risk factors, are really high up there.
Yeah. And then it's like and then you hear that they're still trying to go to school. Like
To me, that tells me that that kid needs a support system because they are trying to
yeah,
do what
they
is
need
their day-to-day
yeah.
activities.
Yeah. They just need one person in their corner where they could be themselves for a bit, I think. But because
Or
they're isolating them.
live
Yeah.
safely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but she's doing a lot. Um, okay, we're covering a lot of macro.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hitting on it. Um,
I think for Elizabeth, seeing that like maybe reinforcing like like what is going on is really a lot of macro level work that's
mhm,
impacting the micro level. So it
yeah,
really is out of her hands.
right.
And what they're doing everything they can for this kid.
Yeah. I'm wondering like I think one of a success that they didn't you just hope isn't going to end too soon, but the fact that they were able to keep her in her public school for a bit longer, give her a little bit more time.
Yeah, I actually didn't know how that worked. So that
Yeah,
because like I know McKinney Vento,
that's a
but I
big,
didn't realize that like even even though she left the system, like I would have thought she'd have to go back to the private school.
mm,
Um, so
yeah, no,
that was interesting. So I feel like that puts
yeah,
her back in a safer environment for
environment.
her.
Yeah, considering the school was letting her change.
Yeah.
Um, so that's huge that
And
she
there's a
had
teacher
that
there that
time.
supports her.
Yeah, and a case manager somewhere. I don't know if it's at the school or where.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's huge. So it's yeah, but it's a lot that um this case is a tough one.
It's a lot of family work,
Yeah.
but the
Bec
family,
yeah.
it doesn't sound like the family's going to engage if they're like
Yeah.
just pretending people aren't talking during meetings.
Yeah. No, very authoritarian, very your way or my way, your my way or the highway sounding, which is again another cultural um thing of not being able like you don't get involved with other people's kids. It can be a big part of cultural thing. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I think like the biggest barrier, despite like outside of like all the laws and the legal
mm,
options, it sounds like the biggest barrier is the culture, like the religious culture,
yeah,
the background.
yeah. Okay, I'm getting this. I apologize. I'm getting another before
Nine
I even
minute.
get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's not telling me 9 minutes. It's telling me running out of time and hey, upgrade. It's advertising instead of telling me. I apologize for that. So
Oh,
we are probably
I
gonna
have a
get.
countdown on my side now. I didn't notice it the last time.
I don't.
So it's
Oh,
like
there we go.
9:25. Yeah.
Okay, no, I had to go all the way up and hold it. Okay. Yeah, we've got a little less than
Got
10
plenty of
minutes.
time, I think.
All right. Especially since the compliment phase, which will be, oh, here we go,
Oh,
is only two to
hi.
5 minutes. So if we end within the next a little over 10, a little less than 10 will be good. Okay. Um, we're gonna wind down also because we're gonna been on this for a bit. First of all, we both want to say that we think you're doing everything right. I
Like
mean,
amazing work.
yeah, you really are. This is an extraordinarily difficult situation to hear about anyone and knowing that they're your client and they're 14 and what they're facing. You are handling this. I absolutely admire how you're handling this. This is such a tough situation. So like you're being composed, you're talking like going through every single scenario that you could think of to try to help this kid. So you're doing
I
everything
appreciate that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Um,
much of it, of this scenario is outside of the client's control, which then
Yeah.
leaves it outside of your control.
And that's what feels so frustrating.
yeah. No, you're what Larissa mentioned it before. You're up against a lot of systematic macro issues as well, not just with her family, but the fact that CPS doesn't think that there's enough danger to remove her. Um, it's a systematic issue that you're facing as well, because this isn't considered abuse right now. That may change in the future, who knows? But you, your client and you, both have a lot to be going up against, and you're doing everything you can, just like she is. Like it sounds like she's engaging, she's going to school. I mean, she's
Hmm.
that's amazing that she's not, giving up academically. Like the fact
Hmm.
that she's trying to get to class,
Yeah.
like when she ran away from home, but is still trying to get to class. I mean, to me, that's like,
That's huge.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I want to give this kid like huge hugs and take her out for ice cream because she's doing that.
Like it'd be
So,
so easy for her to run away and
Give up.
and
yeah.
not go to school and not engage with your services,
Mhm.
right? And really just use you as a bed and a place to sleep. And she's not though. She's like engaging in the process. She's engaging with her like with her school. Like all of those things are good protective factors for her.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good points because like she could be like, my life sucks at home, so why am I even trying?
Yeah. No, it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like she values some of the things her family values, like she values the commitment with her siblings, her
Yeah.
relationship with them.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's another protective factor for her. So it's a lot. Um, and she's at like a hard age too, because she's 14. Like I
The
mean,
law is just really not there for her.
yeah.
Not there for her right now.
Yeah, but you're actively trying to think of everything you can. Um, so that's sometimes all we can do is just focus on what we can. Um, and maybe like, help her use this as a catalyst to work for change herself, like eventually, like, help her see this as a little bit of an empowerment. Like, okay, I can't change everything about my situation, but I can go to school.
Hmm.
Um, I can maybe cooperate a little bit with which school I go to, but then maybe because what we were talking about is maybe since they have such an emphasis on religion, maybe they would let her change churches that has a bit more of a affirming community that is,
As
but
long
we
as
don't know
she's
what her
going
church is
somewhere.
like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a small actionable step. Like as long as she's going to a church, hey, there's a church, they
Yeah.
have a mass, they
They
talk
have the
about the
values. Yeah.
Bible, they have a lot of the values. Um, that could be something that could be explored.
Mm.
Um, Perhaps. But you're doing everything you can. You really are.
Thank you.
You're coming up with safety plans for her. She's engaging in them. She's the school thing. I mean, I can't emphasize on that enough because I mean, a lot of my clients said that getting them to school is the big issue. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it could
there's just
really,
a lot
it
of
could be very easy for her to give up on adults
that. Hmm.
because the ones that are closest to her are not,
Protecting her
yeah,
and accepting her.
accepting her.
Yeah,
And so, like, for her, I, kudos to the kid because she's recognizing that not every adult is like that. And that's huge for a 14-year-old.
and that's
Yeah.
a credit to you because
Hmm.
she's engaging with you. She's talking to you. Like
Yeah.
the fact that
And
she's
she
recognizing you
has
as
made
safe.
a therapeutic rapport with like the people at the center. She's like really she's made strong connections with them. Like, I feel confident that she'll call her youth and family engagement specialist if like something goes wrong. Like she reaches out to them, she sends them text messages and on their work phone. So like she is very engaging.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's absolutely credit to you and to your organization because she's doing that. She knows that she's safe with you guys.
Hmm.
As a 14-year-old reaching out on their own to
Yeah.
other adults. I mean,
That's
that's a big
a
I mean,
thing.
win.
you're
Yeah,
literally a lifeline. And
yeah,
like all the work that you've done up till today is like so important because it's kept her here and like safe, engaged. Like those are huge.
yeah. You really are doing it. Like just one step at a time sometimes. I think I think you're gonna hear good things from her eventually. It's just gonna take time. Okay. We have about 3 minutes left on this one. Does anybody have anything else they would like to talk about? Um, or how was this process overall?
Um, I think it was good. I think that it really helps hearing like people talk through it who like aren't in the muck of it, right? Because like sometimes like you it can be really easy to get stuck in like having the same conversation over again of like feeling like there's no like other like solutions.
Mm,
So like being able to like kind of go through like even just like where are the parents coming from? Like we haven't explored that. Like that's important. And just knowing that like sometimes we are gonna be in like bad situations with our clients, or it's not gonna feel like a good solution, but like we're here to help and be confident that we are doing everything that we can. So I think this was helpful, and um, I it just kind of like cosigns of why it's so important to reach out for like help.
sure. What about you, Larissa? How was this process?
No, I
Was this,
actually I felt like it went really well, and I think the phase that you moved us through kind of helped really guided the conversation so that we were moving it forward,
yeah,
um, and really focusing on like the positives of the situation. Because I do think it's easy to see all the negative.
yeah. No, especially with this one, which is it's a it's a tougher situation. Definitely is on the harder end. So I think this definitely gives you perspective on a lot of different things. Um, and I'm seeing myself personally, like a lot of times now when I'm hearing situations, especially very hard ones, with children, um, especially with teenagers, for some reason, it's resonating me more as a parent now. Even though my kids, they're young, they're very young, 6, 4, and 2. So, but now I do tend to come at it from like, well, if this was my kid, how would I
Hmm.
handle it? And I never used to be that way, but really with kids now, that's changed a lot. So trying to see from how such a strong thought process of a parent, um, is definitely food for thought for me as well. So I enjoyed this. We are going to be knocked off any moment.
Okay.
So do want to say thank you, for your patience with me going through everything.